You would think that after a hotly and significantly contested election for the President of the United States, that the leaders of this country would go out of their way to try to convince the voters that voting is equitable and fair. Instead, they're going out of their way to insist that it's a delusion to think that Biden didn't win fair and square, and that all of the atrocious laws for election integrity that were abused with ballots because of COVID should be enshrined permanently so that Democrats can figure out every way possible to collect votes even after they've lost. They'll have days to ballot harvest or go around the neighborhoods and get some more names without IDs and make up the difference. This is shocking. What's shocking to me is the indifference and the ignorance of 100 million Christians in the United States. We're coming to Easter. That Western civilization is under siege by a threat as serious as 9/11, except that the terrorists are now in office. And so you have to pay special attention on a program like this, on a station like this, on a channel like this, with Real America's Voice, because there are so few people that are cutting through the fog machine of propaganda that we have to take action. Now, action is what we're going to be talking about in this segment also. Things we can do other than hand-wringing news analysis. And I want to start with this insidious development with how the vaccine passport is emerging. You know, we've always been, those of us that are end-time enthusiasts that have read the Bible and have read these fiction works over the years, know that the Bible talks about this one world government and one world economy and global persecution of Christians, and that and it starts with some kind of a mark that forces you to be government followed and tracked, and it has all your data, your vital statistics, and your economics all tied into biotechnology. Well, my gosh, this pandemic is creating the perfect elixir for that opportunity for totalitarian leftists. I want you to listen to Dinesh D'Souza do a quick summary of what this vaccine passport means in terms of the precursor to totalitarian total control of your life in the United States this year.
Now, most Americans, interestingly enough, don't have passports. Why? Because this is a free country. You should be able to move around and travel in the country and do business and go on vacation without somebody asking you to, quote, produce your papers. That's almost something that you see in third world countries, tyrannical countries, countries where sort of authentication is a prerequisite to being able to even function normally in your ordinary life. By and large, we haven't had to do that in this country. Now, very interestingly, the people who are pushing vaccine passports for Americans are the same people who don't want voter ID. These are the same people who don't want identification and proper procedures at the border. So they're loose with the border, and they're loose with voting, but evidently they want all Americans to show proof of vaccination in the form of this kind of either government-issued or government-coordinated passport. Now, for me, the idea of a vaccine passport brings up some sort of chilling historical parallels. When I was filming Death of a Nation a couple of years ago, I was in Germany, in Munich, and there's this huge plaza. It's called the Odeonplatz. 4 gigantic lions. I'll put up a little clip in a moment so you can see. This was a major Nazi checkpoint. Take a look. So this is just an image here of these 4 lions, and the Nazis used this as a spot, a kind of central location to check everybody. And of course, they had special mechanisms for checking the Jews. They wanted the Jews to be identified so they could then be segregated into ghettos, their rights denied, and so on. So this is the historical backdrop of this notion of marking, identifying, tattooing, and you may say passporting citizens not traveling between one country and another, but within the country itself.
So let me think about this for a second. It was, you could hear the chilling voice of Adolf Hitler over the square in Germany. And the classic joke, you know, when we grew up, which was, you know, do you have the papers? And so you'd have to be producing the papers of your Gestapo authorization to go in and travel, and then some government bureau. Just think of TSA going through the, you know, the process of screening at the airport, and see that in stores, see that on street corners, see that in banks, see that, and see people getting arrested, and see scuffles with the law all over the place. Because what they don't seem to understand is there's probably, like, I'd say 50 million Americans who will not get this vaccine until they are convinced that the government can be trusted. And it's hard to trust a government that accuses you of being a terrorist when you are paying taxes and praying for your rulers. So we don't trust the government, and they've got a real credibility issue right now. So but we have other information. Go ahead, Mercedes.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to chime in too. I mean, from a legal standpoint also, my medical records are my information. And so you now want me to show you my medical records when I go to a sporting event, to go to a concert, to go into maybe a bar or a restaurant, I got to show you a QR code that you're going to scan that's going to show you my medical records? Really? I don't know about the legalities there. The other thing I think about, Lance, is how constantly, in the name of safety, of keeping everyone safe, we are giving up personal liberties and my rights. And so we saw this happen after 9/11, where all of a sudden you're talking about TSA and it's like everything's regulated, you know, and now we're giving up personal liberties in the name of safety again. But this time vaccines. So, I mean, I also have a clip I would love to play because I know no one has seen it. If you have, you're a very special person because you like watching House Oversight Committees. But I don't know if we'll get to it in this segment, but it's this guy, Representative Bill Frost, and he talks about, this is a Democrat from Illinois, and he's on the phone with Jay Powell, and he's talking about cryptocurrency. But in order to have cryptocurrency, you have to have a secure ID. But I want you to hear how he wants to leverage this ID. So let's play the clip. I think it's only like a minute and a half.
Very much in your court, having to do with, you know, one of the things the coronavirus laid bare is the lack of, you know, simply a list of citizens of the U.S. and in our ability to rapidly distribute funds, particularly to the underbanked. You know, a high quality and universal digital ID in the U.S. would have made that immeasurably easier, as well as everything from, you know, vaccine certificates or you name it. And so this has been, you know, it's an ongoing discussion on many fronts. And there are also specific proposals. I believe you've had letters urging both of you to look into this in more detail. And so I was just wondering what the state, just as simply as a means for citizens to receive payments, you know, Fed accounts, you know, each one of us has, you know, already an account with the federal government, the IRS at least. And I was wondering how you saw this part of the conversation going.
I think it's something that's worth exploring. I've not done so, but we would be glad to have further conversations with you about how something like this could work. There's certainly
Is that Yellen?
problem,
That's Janet
as
Yellen, yeah.
you've mentioned.
Its time has
Thank you.
expired.
It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. I need you to hear it because this is how they're already thinking, all right? It's not just going to be your vaccine passport. In the long run, it's going to be your checking accounts because he's saying, oh, the underbanked didn't get their stimulus checks. So when we get to, universal basic income and things like that, all of that's going to go on your digital ID. That is literally from the House Oversight Committee, Lance. And if people have seen it, great. If you haven't seen it, it'll blow your mind because that's what it's moving towards.
And let me tell you something. No country has ever gotten to the point where 50% of the citizens receive checks from government and did not cross over into socialism. And what socialism means is that the government controls your life and controls your freedom. And it leads to dictatorship. National socialism is what Hitler's party represented. Now, the way that you do that is you have to have very strong an economic depression. And then you have to have a unionized workforce that is all strong, very young men that are going to be part of the government infrastructure to rebuild the economy. And that's exactly what Biden and the Democrats have demonically come up with, to crash the economy with debt and then rebuild it with an infrastructure program that has taken 60% of the infrastructure in America now is private corporations, free enterprise, and the state. They want to switch it around and make it 75% federal government, union workers, national socialists. That's exactly what's happening. And they're going to bankrupt the country and unionize all the infrastructure projects so that it's a permanent union army working for the totalitarian government, just like National Socialism. And it can only happen if we are ignorant of what they're doing. But worse yet, they're concerned that they're losing the opportunity. We got to get that clip in there. When we come back, I want to get Dr. Wen on the vaccine ticket because, to me, you got to hear CNN expose their hand. They know they got a window to push this vaccine passport. They got to get it through now. Governor Cuomo said, "I'm doing it in my state." DeSantis in Florida says, "No, we're not going to do it." You need to understand the mark, the first phase of the mark of the beast coming to a theater near you. And you need to understand how to block it. The thing I want you to listen for in the CNN clip is that they're saying they've got a window and the incentive is you can have your life back if you'll cooperate with the passport. They're going to make it hard for you not to take this mark on a piece of paper. So when we come back, we're going to go into that. And we're going to come back to Joe Biden destroying Georgia's economy. You got to hear that.
LanceWallnau has just released his latest book, God's Chaos Code.
You need to know the code. You need to know what's happening right now. There is a code in the chaos. There's a purpose in the shaking. Once you see this, it's going to give stability and strength to you. God is literally raising up an awakening generation right now. It's hidden in the code.
You need to know the code. Order God's Chaos Code now at godschaoscode.com.